last night's was new and everybody liked it too. So
Hello, welcome again. We are back at the tavern. It has been a minute. I feel like I have not been here for a long time, even though it's only been a week. But if you did not get a chance to, last week we were here with the fundraiser, and great, nobody can hear me. How can you not? Let's
how
see
about
what's
us? Can
going
you
on.
hear us?
Can you hear them? Can you hear them?
Hello?
Hello. Let's see what we can crank up here. See what's going on. I'm at full speed. Great. That's not good. Let's see. Corey's good and Michael's good.
All right.
So it's just me as usual.
So welcome to Tavern Talks.
You are super quiet. Awesome. Yeah. So Corey, start talking. I'll fill
Yeah,
in.
sure. I'll start the introductions here. We've got Michael with us. We're going to go through a couple of different iterations of what he calls dynamic combat. We're also going to just kind of chat about D&D combat and how to spice things up. Um, and yeah, that's it's going to be a night of how to make combat different, interesting, and a little bit more dynamic. So, what? Yeah, how about now, James? Can they hear you now?
I don't know. We'll see. Can you hear me now? Am I better? If not, I got to figure out what's going on. But the mic is definitely not changed. I'm literally standing right. You got worse.
You got worse. All
Okay.
right. Well, I'll start out with some questions for Michael. First of all, what brought this about for you? Why did you want to make basically a different way of doing combat, and what was that journey for you?
Well, it started because I was bothered by the fact that combat is intended to be these short second episodes, but players were able to kind of expand and contract these 6 seconds and as they would. The classic example I've given to you guys many times is the fighter who might be in the way of a fireball is able to carefully walk out of range of that fireball before the wizard casts it, even though that would have happened in 6 seconds. It's always driven me crazy that sort of strategic planning would be possible. Now, one disclaimer I do give with this process that I think of changing combat that I've done is if you are a player who likes the strategic element of D&D, then these changes might not make the game better for you. It might make it worse because it does kind of take a little bit away from that. But if you're a player who wants to create more um, kind of accidental moments of, well, I should have moved when I didn't, um, what I think is more realistic versus tactical, then I think that this would be enjoyable.
Awesome. All right, James. You figure anything out? You flip any switches down there?
I flipped some switches. Let's see. Am I better? I mean, I can see my
You,
bar going a
I
lot
think so.
higher. Test, test, 1, 2. Test, test, 1, 2.
You
Anybody?
sound
No,
louder
nobody
to
just.
us.
Everybody
Yeah, it
just
sounds louder to
decided.
me.
Everybody just decided to just stop listening to me. It's okay. I get it. This is what happens. Um, yeah. Anything, chat. Come on. I need something. I have nothing.
Here, I can unmute.
Not bad on
Oh,
my
not bad on
side.
my side.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you,
Uh,
Doctor Nine. Got some. I, I don't know if that is that how I pronounce that. Doctor Nine G Oat Son. I don't know. We'll figure that out later.
all right.
That's a different topic apparently. Uh,
All right, so I guess we're gonna start out with some examples. Michael's got a roll 20 up, but we're not gonna actually show the roll 20. We're just gonna walk through a couple of rounds of combat here. He'll explain the different dynamics of how we're gonna roll this combat. We'll do a couple of rounds. I've got a rogue, and James has got a wizard, but we're just gonna kind of walk through it. So, Michael, what's this first rendition? What are we going to be doing on this one?
Okay, so this first one came about because I was watching some videos on how to make combat better. And I can't remember who it was, but he suggested if players seem to start taking too much time, pull out an hourglass to create that tension. And I decided to take that and kind of create my little 6 second window where you're deciding what to do within a certain amount of time amongst the entire team, not just one player at a time. And of course, I felt 6 seconds was going to be way too constricting for people to decide what to do. So
Right.
some 45-second. They are around 45-second timers. The 45-second is designed for 6 players, so with just 2 players, it might feel a little long. But at the end of this, and there'll be a big countdown at the end, you'll know when the end happens. You either have decided what you're going to do and you have your dice rolled, or your character has froze because he couldn't decide what was the best action to do. So that's going to be the first one that we have. We're going to do a couple of rounds of that. In this
All right. And
particular instance,
well, I was just going to say on this one, are we rolling just a standard initiative cycle that's going to rotate every time?
yeah, we're just going to do
Okay.
the standard initiative
Okay.
versus changing. So in this particular combat example, we have our rogue and our wizard who have wandered up onto a camp of goblins. At this time, they see 4 goblins kind of sitting around a couple horses as they eat them. What do you guys do to get into this combat?
Oh, the timer is starting. All right.
Oh, no,
So,
no, timer has not started. You'll know when
oh,
it starts.
okay. I was
So
like, okay. Um, well, if they haven't seen us yet, I think I'm going to try and sneak up into the foliage near one of the goblins. That's
And we
that's
can
that's
see
going to be
all
what
of
I'm
the
going to try.
goblins immediately, correct?
you can see these 4 goblins
Oh heck yeah!
immediately,
I'm going as
yes.
far away as possible because I know I have ranged abilities. So I'm going to hide in these trees over in this foliage over
Okay,
here.
sounds good. So we're gonna have our rogue friend here roll a stealth roll that I'm gonna say, "Oh, you missed. You failed to sneak up on him,"
Oh,
because this is about combat, and we want to start the combat. So this goblin that you were trying to sneak up on does turn, and he notices you. And with that, we are going to go into initiative. So go ahead and roll your initiative. We're using Roll20, so please remember to select your token before clicking on the initiative button.
Did I
got
do
it.
that? Yeah, I did that. Sweet.
Okay, so we're missing the rogue. Rogue did roll though.
Oh, here I'll roll again.
It's okay. I can add you. There
There
we
it
go.
is.
Yeah, you didn't listen
So,
as usual, Corey.
No,
Didn't
I thought I
listen.
had him clicked.
Go off script
okay,
during a
so
fundraiser. Like I said, didn't listen. That's okay. We handed out extra prizes that time.
since you guys that are watching can't see our virtual tabletop, we've got the rogue with the 19, wizard with the 19, and the goblins with the 13. This version of combat that will stay for the entirety of the combat. This is a little different from what we're going to be doing later on. So, rogue and wizard. Wizard, you chose to back off while the rogue snuck up. The goblin has turned and is pulling out his sword and yells at his friend. So now we will start the timer. I've got 10 of them. I will roll a d10 to decide which one we're going to do. And so I'll start this one. And this will be when you and Corey and James are going to be discussing what they're going to be doing. By the end of this, have your dice rolled or have kind of a description of what you're going to be doing.
Okay.
Oh,
Ooh.
Oh,
Dun, 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 dun,
so
dun, dun,
since
dun,
this
dun,
is
dun,
built
dun.
normally for a 6-person party, we're going to talk a little bit about this, and if we run out of time, we run out of time.
yeah.
So you have 10 timers. So are they different time frames each time?
They all are roughly about 45 seconds, give or
Okay.
take. This particular one is actually exactly 45 seconds.
Okay.
They again, the audience can't hear what we have going on, but they all have exciting combat music to kind of
10,
pull in the moment
9,
for
8,
the combat.
8, 7, 6.
5, 4,
And then at the very
2,
end, the last 10 seconds
1.
has me decide doing a countdown so they know it's
Yeah.
coming up. It's time to do something. So
So I'm gonna
Yeah.
cast Ray of
Okay.
Frost.
And I'm gonna swing my swing my short sword at him. Which I don't have a short sword button on this pre-gen, but that's okay.
roll a d20, add your strength and proficiency.
That's what I'll do.
Yeah, come on, Corey. We've been playing tabletop. We've been playing on virtual tabletops too long. You don't know how to actually roll dice anymore. We do things
Okay,
for
so
us
it
too
looks
much.
like we have the rogue up top.
Yep.
The rogue has frozen.
The rogue is frozen.
Okay, so we got a 20. That will indeed hit him. Go ahead and roll your damage for that.
Now you would want them to actually roll the damage and everything all at once, right?
So actually, I did never
Or
think
would
of
you?
that with this one because at the time I didn't. But I do advise people to roll all of your dice, at least as much as you as the player would know you need to roll, for sure.
Mhm.
Okay.
Um, if you crit, obviously you're going to have to roll again, but that is one way to always make combat go faster, is to just roll all your dice.
Okay, that's how I do it.
So we got 5 damage to this goblin, and then the wizard's Ray of Frost
Right.
does fly through the air. A 13. Were you which goblin were you targeting with that?
It would have been. It was the same one that the rogue with.
Same one. Okay, he will resist that or dodge out of it. Let's see, 13. Yes, it does collide, but he seems to resist this coldness. Again, not mechanically resist, but it just didn't beat his AC.
Makes sense. Okay, so the idea for this specific type is to speed up combat, kind of give people the ability to work in combination attacks, planning, organizing all of that thing, and you only have a 45-second window to do so.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
exciting music. It's like
And
dun,
it's
dun, 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 dun,
yeah,
dun,
yeah.
dun,
So
dun.
it's epic music. Like if you've ever played any sort of like Skyrim or Warcraft or any of those big epic areas where they're jumping into the boss battle, that's exactly how it feels. And sadly, that's not what this combat feels like because it's 4 goblins. But if you were going into a massive combat where you were going to be attacking the big bad guy, there'd been great music to just be like, oh god, this is going to be huge, and we're going to have to do this so fast, and blah blah blah, and all this stuff. But yeah, no, this is definitely an interesting way to speed up combat for sure.
All right, let's do one for real. Let's do a full round. Let him do the music. We'll talk about it as if
Okay.
we're let's do it.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
don't
And
want
then
to keep
we'll
on
switch
too
to the
long on this
skit.
part because of the fact that they can't see it or hear anything, so we're kind of
Yeah.
having to describe as much as possible.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna work on trying. I put these tracks on SoundCloud, so I'll work on trying to find that link so you guys can share it with them and they can hear what they sound like if they want,
Yeah,
or
sure.
even download them and use them in their games if they want.
Yeah, so there's a couple.
As
I
well.
have a couple friends of mine who are sound creators that a lot of their stuff is free. If you are part of the GUI community, Martin is out there. He's a German composer, and he does some epic sounds as well for his stuff. So yeah, just keep an eye out. Anything, and then all you do is you take something like Audacity, which is a free software that you can download, and you can clip it to 45 seconds if you really need to get to that point. One thing I did think was kind of interesting, though, would be to have a multitude of these, but never tell players like, hey, it could be 40 seconds or it could be 50 seconds, and you've got kind of this window, so that you're not. It's more of like this musical chairs type mentality of it could start faster, it could it could take a while. Maybe they're planning more on their end as well. The problem with this is when you as a GM have 65 people you have to pay attention to, and they're only paying attention to their character. So, because I'm feeling you have to kind of be ready after that 45 seconds as a GM as well, which can be stressful.
Yeah, I do. I do try to stay to that. So from this last combat, we've got our rogue who stabbed with his sword, dealing a little bit of damage to the goblin. Ray of frost flew across the battlefield. And then the goblin did slash at you with his scimitar and deal 4 points of slashing damage to you.
Ah, I hope you don't feel too
So
bad because I'm a wizard and
we'll
I
go
can't heal you for crap. So,
into our second round, and I will start soundtrack round one.
All right, I think I'm going to disengage and draw him towards you. What do you think?
okay,
You ready?
sounds good. Yep. And then
All right.
as
So
soon
I'm
as
going to
he comes near
disengage,
me,
draw my
I'm
short
going
bow,
to.
and draw him towards you.
Okay, sounds good. And yeah, if you disengage, run towards me, and I will throw a ray of frost at him and see if the rest of them will come towards you as well.
Why is it doing that? It won't roll my damage. Okay.
Actually, should I do that or should I drop a? Actually, you know what I'm going to do instead of that? I'm going to drop sleep.
Okay. All right. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, so as you disengage, I'm going to sleep him.
8, 7,
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
See how many
All
you
right.
get to sleep before you run away. Or as you're running away.
Okay. So again, we're using the static initiative. So
All right.
Rogue, you go first. You said
All
you're
right.
disengaging, but you're going to attack them first,
No, I'm going to
right?
disengage and draw my short bow and shoot my short bow
That's
at him.
right. That's right. Okay. So I'll move you kind of over here. Your short bow is 20. Well, which one are we using?
The first one.
The first one.
I tried to
Well,
roll damage. I was clicking the damage button and it kept rolling the attack button. I don't know. Um,
um, so you will indeed hit and do 6 points of damage. Probably. Are you aiming at that same
Same
one?
one. Yep.
And then we had our wizard here who dropped out sleep, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. And 16 hit points of creatures, and that starts with the highest one, right?
Starts with the
Lowest, I
lowest.
think.
Lowest? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this goblin here actually died from that short bow attack. So
They're all the same
these
health.
two would have fell asleep, and this guy would be moving up then, but only getting roughly there.
Okay.
So he would not have enough range to get his attack on.
Awesome. So that's 2 rounds of the timer thing. So let's talk about the second dynamic combat version, and we'll play a round or two of that.
Okay. So the second version was um, me deciding that I want to make combat that one that we just saw was to make combat more realistic time wise. This next one is to make combat more realistic as far as what your character can do. So one major change that's going to happen is we're going to be rolling different initiative every turn. For players at home, you can just have them have 2d20, make them decide which one is initiative and which one's going to be their action first, and then they'll roll them both with their action. Tabletop, it's very easy, or virtual tabletop, it's very easy just to have them click both buttons. I've gone through different things of this version, which we'll talk about later. But the current one that we're going to use is to kind of bring out the element of a fighter could choose to act frantically in order to get timing on his side for attacks, try to hit the enemy before they can hit him, or he could choose to be more cautious and hope that he's able to dodge their attacks and then act in response. So what I do on this is you can choose to roll your initiative as normal. You can choose to roll it with disadvantage, or you can choose to roll it with advantage. But the action roll is going to be opposite that. So if you choose to roll your initiative with an advantage to go faster, you're going to roll your attack roll with disadvantage to simulate that frantic. And then same thing vice versa, where if you rolled initiative with disadvantage, your attack is going to have advantage. So, the other thing that I like to do with this is combat is going to be kind of more popcorn style. Um, so that's hard to describe, but you'll see it in play here. So, James, as this goblin is charging towards you, may I have a perception check real fast?
All right. Pop
Oh,
that
I meant,
here.
sorry, I'm getting names mixed up. I meant Corey.
Oh,
You may do a perception check as well. Let's have you do it.
Uh,
yeah. No, I don't
Perception for
see.
me. There you go.
I don't see crap.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
me neither. I don't see anything.
you don't see
I got
anything,
3.
but you feel something as an arrow suddenly pierces your chest, doing 2 points of
Ooh!
damage. What do you
Ow!
do? So
Um,
an arrow has come flying from over here. This goblin is continuing to charge up towards you. The goblin's in the back. They're still asleep. Um, what do you do?
well, the I know there's somebody shooting at me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and back up into the foliage a little bit next to the wizard, take a shot at the one that's charging me, and try and get cover to figure out where the other arrows are coming from. That's going to be my action.
Okay, sounds good. So do roll your attack roll then, and then your initiative, however you feel. Wizard,
Straight up, straight up.
you see your goblin friend start to back out, or not your goblin friend, your rogue friend start to back out. There seems to be an arrow in him. You are not sure where this came from. What do you do?
Um, I'm going to. I'm gonna focus. I'm gonna roll my initiative at disadvantage to be farther in the line to
Okay.
watch as and then fire off as I see the arrow go
Okay. And what are you firing? Your ray of frost again, or?
out. Yeah, I don't feel like burning down an entire forest right now.
Okay. Go ahead and roll your initiative then with disadvantage and your attack with advantage. And then we need to
And
do
oh, hold on,
goblins.
that did not work. All right. So my initiative is at 4.
So you were saying that you didn't want people to be all too strategic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think that I mean, you can still get that feel, I think, from this because if I'm the wizard and I'm going to be casting sleep, I will just say I'm going to take my initiative at disadvantage to go later in the round to give the fighter and the rogue and everybody a chance to get out of there, or the fireball example from earlier,
Yeah.
right? I'm
Yeah.
going to take it at my disadvantage, but you might roll 2 20s and fireball them anyway. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I like about this is that you can still be
Yeah,
strategic, but
but you don't
you,
you're
you
not
may
you don't
it may
have
not work.
all the permissions of a strategic attack.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like the fact that there's a little bit of a change up. Hoping we are not frozen on screen. Are we frozen on screen?
I can
Then
see us. We're
Cool.
moving.
we got an 18 here.
Nope, we froze.
Okay,
Nope, we have
so
froze.
we have froze. Have I froze?
No.
Nope.
No, we not in Discord on Twitch. It looks
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
video froze. BRB. BRBR.
Freeze.
No, we not in Discord on Twitch. It looks like video froze. BRB. BRBR.
Um, no. Yeah, so we can keep talking while this is going on. It's just for some reason the video is frozen.
They can still hear us, though.
I believe they can still hear us.
Okay.
Let me unmute.
Okay, so the rogue, you get to you had a 18 for your initiative. You do back up then as he's charging towards you and shoot off your arrow. Let's see. Where's your attack for that one?
That was a crit.
Was that one the crit? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll do your damage. I got you there. 13 points of damage to this goblin.
Hit rate is dropped. Sorry, guys.
Okay. And then next is the wizard, who has chosen to delay his action for a ray of frost. On that one that's charging him, you will hit. I'll get your damage for you.
Okay.
No, they can hear us. I just unmuted my tab.
Okay, cool.
So that, yeah.
That's one thing I don't like about the Discord portion is for some reason, or the Streamlabs in general, is it doesn't give us the auto refresh where.
And with
Zoom will.
ray of frost, this goblin will outright die.
Oh, All right, but there's still some in the woods somewhere. Oh, do we see the ones that just popped up in the woods now?
Yeah, they would be coming out and shouting now, even more outraged that another one of their friends has died. So, Corey, this goblin started to charge at you. He made it a few feet before your arrow pierced him in the chest, and then a ray of frost came over and just completely obliterated him. On the horizon, you see that the two are still sleeping, but that two more have come out of the bushes. Screaming goblins rage at you, readying their bows to fire another arrow. What do you do?
I'm gonna step adjacent to my friend here. When on my turn, step adjacent to my friend, and then shoot the one straight across the road. Is what I'll do on my turn. Let me roll that and roll my initiative. And yes, I want to keep it straight up. There we go, and then I'll roll my damage. And James is, I guess, up now, or his declaring his attack. I like how we have to declare what we're doing.
You also see these two goblins start to appear on the ridge as they ready their arrows to fire towards you. What do you do?
All right. So because we're starting to get swarmed, I'm going to stop with the picking off slowly, and I'm going to just immediately cast a magic missile on each of them.
Okay, sounds good. Go ahead and roll your attacks and your initiative. In this case, roll your initiative. I suppose you could still do it with an advantage.
No, I'm good.
Magic missile automatically hits.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Actually, you know what? I'm actually gonna roll my initiative with. I'll roll my initiative with advantage.
So yeah, that's what.
That's what I meant.
Yeah,
That's what I meant.
since yes, so and then I'll use my magic missile to blast these guys. So 3 for the first one, 5 for the second, and 2 for the third.
Are you going to be hitting one of those that's asleep then?
You said there were 2 on the bridge.
Ridge.
Oh,
These
ridge.
Two.
Yeah. Actually, no. I'll do 2 shots with the one that's not been shot yet, and the other shot with the first shot with the one that the rogue already shot.
Okay. So I'm going to do the 2 here to show something that I do for this.
Okay.
And then the rogue, the goblins would fire. So this one here fires an arrow at the rogue. 15. I can't remember what your AC is, but I think it's gonna hit. Do you have your AC? Yes, 14. So that will collide, dealing 8 points of piercing damage to the rogue.
Awesome.
And then the other one will. So this one up here is at 0 hit point. The wizard has has done enough damage to bring this one to 0 hit points. But again, my goal with this is to try to create more realistic combat, which
Hmm.
means that
Right.
I'm going to still give him a chance to do his attack, but because he has been hit put to 0 or lower, he's going to do this attack with disadvantage regardless of his initiative roll. So he will miss, and then Corey's turn would come off. I give that same thing to the players as well. Corey is technically at -3 at this point, but he's not dead, outright dead, so I will give him a chance to do his attack with disadvantage.
So this
Um,
is more so to give the expectation of how D&D was designed that everything happens in 6 seconds.
yes, yes.
Right.
Okay.
So the rogue did ready and fire his arrow. He was just a little bit slower. Maybe he did release the string before you hit him, but regardless, I'm giving him. He's lost focus due to the fact that he's about to die.
Right.
Hmm.
So this 7 would not hit, and so you would miss with that. So you never know when you're going to get lucky. Now the reason I didn't do that on that first goblin was because he was knocked down to -11 in one round
Oh,
before he could act, so he had outright died.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So, um,
What do you guys think about this, chat? Do you guys have any questions? Do you think this would be helpful in your games? Do you think there's anything that you want to understand about combat or have questions on about combat? Make sure you're throwing those up in the chat so that we can answer those while we're
So now that we've
going.
seen both versions of this dynamic combat, let's just have some back and forth questions about it.
Yeah,
so if I
Uh,
could share some things real fast that I've
sure.
noticed as I've done it. Um, that first one, we had talked a lot about how it made combat faster.
Hmm.
I don't think that that first one with the soundtrack actually does make it faster. I think it makes it feel faster, but I think it actually takes up about the same amount of time. I guess if you have the person with severe paralysis, it would make it faster. But when you take those 45 seconds plus the little bit each after that to go through the turns, I think that it comes out to be pretty close to the same amount of time a round would take.
Hmm.
Uh, but it feels faster because now everybody is involved all at once deciding what they want to do. It's not, I take my turn and then I wait 3 minutes for my turn to come back around. It's,
Right.
we're all discussing and then we have maybe a minute and then we're all discussing. So,
Yeah.
oh,
No,
and
I
then
do
this,
like that. And I think that's something that I will definitely be trying out in some of my games. Um, I think the other thing that's nice about those is then it stops the immediate back like banter. So if you want to do your free action, you have a free action of 6 seconds, so of talking. But if you're just going to continue to talk and say, "Hey, look over there. These guys are here. This is what's going on." Um, I think that's an interesting way of doing it. My only question with stuff like this is, what about for stuff like reactions? What about stuff like the creature has already died before after they had hit the initiative ending? Um,
so for reactions, I just advise you to do what makes sense with them.
mhm.
Like reactions still would exist. You would
Right.
still be able to react to, oh, the goblin did rush up on me, and I have this reaction to hit him.
Right.
Um, I would still definitely allow the players to put those in there. And then as far as how to handle when the creature dies, you could either the very first time I did this, I would allow players to change their targets.
Okay.
Oh, you've noticed this one has died. You can change it to one other target,
Yeah.
or or you could do the kind of the way that I handled it in that second example, where um, if the creature dies, as in 0 hit points, he still has a chance to act. But maybe you do still throw your spell in it to make sure that he's dead and can't act. Um, you wouldn't necessarily know how dead he is, but it could ensure that they wouldn't be able to act. The, I have always done the allowing to change their targets though.
Hmm.
So,
Well,
So
because
I think
this brings a scarier mentality in it. Because if the way I always tell my players is whatever a player does, a GM can do. So if that means that if everybody's targeting one target as a monster to a player, and we run by the same concept that they can still be moving during that 6 seconds, that's potential for permadeaths very easily
Yeah.
on campaign in low level
yeah,
characters.
I think that I think that the if I was going to allow the reassignment of actions, right? Like you're taking your bow shot and that guy goes down, I would say, yeah, you can do it. Now you can try and shoot them again to make sure they're not getting up or make sure that they're not going to be able to attack, or you can reassign your attack at disadvantage. So roll a die and see which is
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Because that's kind of goes with the hectic nature of combat, right? I've
Right,
got this guy, I'm beating down on him. Oh, they just got hit with a fireball. Well, let me switch to this in the middle of the time and let it go.
right.
So I think I would do that and add a disadvantage roll to that. And then what I like about the free action part, what you were talking about, James, is you have that 45 seconds to have conversations about combat.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will say
Um,
that if I'm going to do something like this, especially on, unless it's a very intense combat where I want people to feel like they don't have a lot of time to talk, I'm going to definitely take the decibel on that sound down by like 50% and let it kind of float in the
yeah,
back of the sound rather than heavy, because you want to have that banter. You want to let the players discuss, and maybe they do roll the, like our setting where the at the first time where the wizard and the rogue both had the same initiative score. So then you let them play something combo, like the arrow is fired and then the scorching ray is connected to the tip of the arrow, doing something a little extra or doing something, and then if they both hit, do cool stuff. If they don't both hit, guess what, they don't do cool stuff. um, and I think that's kind of something that you can do on a bit by bit basis. Uh,
mhm.
One of the suggestions that Asherbo said, and it's something that I discussed in my Instagram post earlier today, is giving the creatures player levels, giving them classes that, and not only giving them classes that mechanically work and are fun with, but give them descriptors and ways that the players can kind of see this dude is not a goblin. Like, he's a goblin, but he's got a little bit of a difference to him. Maybe he's got some extra war paint on him, or wears a mask, and
Right.
has some
Or
extra
as a
feathers
necklace of
hanging off.
shrunken heads or
Yeah, a
something.
bunch of
Yeah.
shrunken heads around his
Yeah.
neck, that kind of thing, to show that maybe these things are going to do something different. That's my only suggestion to that. Especially, you can also ask the players if they want to do a perception roll at the beginning of combat, or as they're right before they get initiated into combat. Maybe not doing it during combat unless they want to waste their time to do so. Um,
Hmm.
but like I
That's
said, especially in this case where you're coming up on a creature's and you can see all the creatures, and you're like, okay, what do I see? And you roll a decent amount. You can see, three goblins, and then there's another one that kind of has a little bit of it has more cloth look to it. Has this weird looking gnarled staff that his bones are all attached to it, and there's feathers sticking out of the back of the character's headdress, and you can now immediately think, okay, there's our magic user. Um, or you laugh when you rage with that character, and that character comes over and beats you with the staff because it's actually the barbarian, and that's how their entire tribe works. But these are funny things that you
I,
can have fun with.
I like that idea because I've never taken that approach to creating NPCs. Heck, I play out of the box games. I'm not a creative GM as far as creating my own adventures. But when I'm talking to players as far as making a character, I always tell them you're not just a halfling rogue.
Right.
Decide who you are and build your character around that, because the more personable you make things, the more memorable and interesting they become.
Yeah. So this is
So
funny. You mentioned this because this was entirely how the fundraiser was built. is we came up with the idea of showing people how to create characters and creating them so that they're dynamic enough that they feel natural rather than just a bunch of stats. And I always
Yeah.
tell people that you stick with your core. So, what is your core of your character? Is your character going to be a bodyguard? Is your character's main goal to avenge something? Is whatever its core mentality is, that's what you want to focus on before
Yeah.
you even pick anything else. Giving character creatures. So I love doing this. This is
Yeah.
my bread and butter right here, people. I do this to all my characters, all my players. They hate it because they get it used against them to catch it, but once they actually receive it, it's so much more enriching. I had a flame myrmidon in a high level. I think we're 8 now. I think it's level 8. Evil campaign for my Tomb of Annihilation, which I've talked about before. One of the players had received the Tender Strike, but before he received the Tender Strike, this Myrmidon decided to just abuse the players with this item. And it was a very hard combat, but it was a lot of fun. And once he received it, he was super excited to have it. So I give my creatures magic items that I believe that the characters might want all the time to let them play around with. And sometimes they use them and sometimes they don't. If I throw an extra couple potions on a creature because they're kind of this alchemic, or maybe they found them after they had ransacked a caravan or whatnot, they're going to have those items, but they might not always use them, especially less intelligent creatures because they might not know what they are. So just because the creature has it doesn't always mean you have to use it. And the same thing goes with class levels, stuff like that. You don't have to give every creature class level. You don't have to give every creature all the class abilities of each class level. Um, but especially for people like I play with, a lot of times are veteran players who know the basics of all the creatures. So when you throw a monster and you give him a little bit of a different twist because of either the environment that he's in or the the background of where he's coming from might change a little bit, it gives the players a lot more of a dynamic to, okay, this isn't a goblin, this is a specific goblin from this location, which means
Hmm.
he's probably going to be a little different. And these
Yeah.
are just little hints and tricks that you can give players to
So,
have fun.
so I want to review the second version that we did a little bit and just kind of put my spin on it. I like I like rolling all your dice and your initiative all at the same time. I really like the take advantage for disadvantage with the initiative thing. Um, the so I think that what I would do with that is just kind of to codify it in a sequence, right? So you have everybody, you start with your vignettes, which I like that. I like the little combat vignette. Hey, this is what's going on with you. What do you do? This is what, okay, that's what you're going to do. Roll your dice. Um, and then just loop through combat storytelling with all the dice rolls. So as the GM, you're like just basically you have a block of time where you're just explaining what happened with all the dice rolls, um, which I think is going to make it quicker because you're compacting all of the dice roll interpretation into one section of combat per round. You're not figuring out what happened during this turn and that turn. You're just saying, okay, here's all the dice rolls. I'm going to tell that story. And then going back to the first person in the last round's initiative for the next vignette. That doesn't mean they're going to go first this round, but at least having that so it's like, hey, you went first last round, so we'll just say this is who this. I'm
That's a
starting
good
with you
idea.
for the vignette to give some kind of sequence to the madness of combat. Um, and I agree. Reactions are reactions. If you get to take them because of something that happens, you take your reaction. That's just
The
how it works.
the one problem I've had with how that's been working out is it's been very clunky because of I'm guessing that handling it the way you said, just having an established order of how I handle things would make it a lot less clunky because I had been trying to handle it as in, well, this is what you're the most immediate person in this thing, so let's handle your thing first.
Hmm.
And it has led to me occasionally missing a few players. But
Yeah, I mean
I,
that's more of just GMs have so much that they're tracking that it happens. I mean, I've done it on stream with players before. I'm like, oh crap, I missed you. Let's go back and let's make sure we catch you back up. Um,
yeah,
I will say though, with stuff like this, it's very fun to do, but at the same time, it's very difficult on. Um, we the way we talked about it, because I've done this on stream before, where we monologued kind of the combat all at once. Like, this is what happened this round. Um, and from what I got, the response from both players and the chat was is that it was very convoluted. It was more so it almost got lost to it, because then you're sitting there listening to that giant monologue while you're waiting on the next round to go.
hmm
Because you have to track everybody down that whole thing. So, while so and so's attacking with this person's doing this. They're attacking from behind, whatnot. Um, and really, I think as long as it's something that makes sense to the players, I don't think that a monologue is needed at the end all the time. It could be just done during that session. Um,
yeah. I I use it doing it this way has helped me a lot with doing it better because like you said if you do like the classic D&D style
mhm.
then you've got like 15 minutes of stuff to remember.
Yeah,
Uh, but with how this moves a little quicker, I've been it's been a lot better, a lot easier to keep track of what's been going on. But of course, the monologues you really only want to use them to create excitement and to push the combat forward, which is why I do the little vignettes.
right.
Is to say this has happened to you. What are you doing? And then sometimes I like if three people were beating on the same person, I would just summarize it as this guy is getting wailed on. What do you do?
Right. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. Um, yeah, and I think
So
monologues are really useful for that, and then useful to bring that tension for whatever monster you're trying to um, show or get more intensity from. Uh, what were you going to say, Corey? Because I heard you
Well, I
broke
was
up.
just going to say we got about 10 minutes left, and I want to kind of branch out into other spicing up combat
Okay.
ideas.
Yeah.
I'm going to a couple of things that we've mentioned before that I just want to throw out there again in case we have new viewers.
Yeah.
Um, it's something I love to do, and I've written into just about every one shot I put out there, and that's cutscenes. A monster doesn't just take a hit and go down. Like you put a cutscene in at 50% health, and when it gets to 50% health, there's a little story element I'm going to read, and I'm going to say this happens. I'm going to pause initiative. We're going to stop the combat.
Cool.
This thing happens. And I'm not going to give anything away in case you play one of those one shots that I've written. But the thing happens which changes combat, and in some cases actually changes the creature you're fighting, so that you're thinking, oh, well, we're doing great. Oh, crap. Now we've got this whole new thing to deal with. Likewise, I like to stop when the fight is over with a vignette of some sort. When the fight is done, it's not just you cut their head off, you're done, right? There's got to be some, especially with a boss fight or something. This person who has been your adversary should have something to share, either in their mannerisms or in what they do as they go down. Whether or not they die should be your choice, and
Hmm.
then you gave that choice to the players. You don't always have to let the rules ruin the game or ruin the story because somebody rolled a crit and crit this person when they were only at 2 hit points. If you had something storyline wise you wanted to share, cutscene, share it, then ask them what
Agreed.
they want to do with this thing
100%. I agree.
they've defeated.
Yep.
And if the party wants to kill the bang bad guy, I mean that's their prerogative. But at least give that thing. And yes, uh, I think re-rolling initiative every turn is something I do all the time, and I actually think that helps a lot. The second thing that I think James even posted earlier today on his post is give the environment a turn, put it on initiative.
Hmm.
The environment itself, give it a turn so that you remember as a GM, hey, this is happening somewhere. For example, in the combat we just did, if the environment has a turn, which you did a little bit with the perception roll, well, the bushes are rustling and it could be the wind. That's all you get from the initiative or from the environment's initiative, and you're like, oh, is there something in the bushes or is it the wind blowing? I don't know, but
Right.
That's
there's a
cool.
little bit of description every round that you get from the environment, and the more toxic or dangerous the environment, the more cool those initiative rounds can go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
So
the
that's what I just
environment is
wanted
a
to throw
lot
a
of
bunch out.
yeah, no,
My
the
2 minutes.
environment is something I love to toy with. And it doesn't have to just be that. You just want to make sure that when you have an environment out there that you're giving your players and your creatures both the ability to interact with it. Whether that's they've got traps set up, they've got, you've got the barbarian who just rips a tree out of the ground and beats somebody with it, whatever the reasoning behind or whatever the idea is, let your players and let your creatures really live in those environments, and don't just make them rough terrain. Make something to it. Now, something I was told today that was really unique that I had never thought about is giving your environment random changes. So make a roll table of 10 items because the environment is strange, it's different. Make sure that the 10 items all make sense, of course, but if maybe the wind picks up and it catches everybody off kilter who's not holding on to something. Maybe you're in a dense forest and the a rogue root is sticking out of the ground and this makes it so that you trip or whatnot. Other things, cool things you can do with maps is you can place random things in the map that you might not ever use, but you have them there so that you can have the ability to use them if you need to. Those are really easy tips that will allow you to spice up your combat without having to change or completely rewrite combat if for some reason your players want to go AWOL and go crazy. So
And the map things don't have to be specific or detailed.
no,
It could be something that even the players go, "What is that?" And that gives you the opportunity to go, "Oh, it's a pile of plates. I don't know why there are a pile of
I don't know
plates
why it's
sitting
there.
here."
But sooner or later,
Yeah.
that one character, especially if he's a fighter or a barbarian, the next creature he sees, that plate's going on that dude's head, guaranteed. Because
You know,
that's what I would do.
the thought that comes to mind with talking about this is earlier we talked about giving your NPC's personality, your monster's
Yeah,
personality, but you can do the same with the environment.
yeah,
Create memorable environments to where you're not just on a road, you're on this road,
right,
which means that this may or may not happen. You
correct. And you see it a lot. Really, anytime you do an encounter, it's putting a block in front of your players, and you need to realize that means that they need to get through something, whether that's a combat challenge, or it could just be a couple goblins. But what the problem you don't know is that these goblins are known to be of in this area, and they've got traps all over the place. So really, your thing is to get through the traps. The goblins are just there. Um, these are, like I said, these are all interesting ideas that you can add to your games and make your combat a lot more spiced up by doing so. Um, I want to touch back real fast before we end, though. I want to touch back on this whole re-rolling initiative every time. Because we stated, yeah, it's great, it's something we like to do, but why? I think what it does is it gives the ability for you not to always know exactly what's coming up next. Maybe something I've been thinking about since we were just doing this is letting people re-roll initiative but giving them disadvantage on their attacks. So if we're
Mhm.
doing a static initiative normally, what do we need to do so that we can change that initiative? Now, your initiative still could change to be worse. You never know. But if you want to take that opportunity to try to increase your initiative or change up where you're at in the stats, um, giving those opportunities to shift through and make yourself faster or slower I think would be kind of neat. But it's
So,
also
I'm gonna challenge. I like the re-rolling, taking disadvantage on your next action to re-roll, or taking disadvantage on any roll for that round
for that
to re-roll
round.
your initiative.
Yeah,
I think that's good. But one of the things, because I played a lot of 3-5, and in 3-5 there was always this like, let's juggle the initiative around. I'm gonna hold my action until this person goes, and
right.
before you know it, you're just if you actually let them all hold their initiative as many times as they want, they're going at like a -10, right? Every round,
Yeah,
because they keep juggling around each other, and I hated that. But I think that there are two things. One, I think having a way to redo it, even if you don't want to redo it every round, having some sort of mechanism to redo it and maybe force the bad guys to redo it somehow. And what I really liked about what Michael did in that second example, whatever anybody in the combat is going to do in that round is going to happen. It might happen at disadvantage, but it's going to happen. Even
right.
if you kill that goblin, he's going to loose that arrow. And I really like that, and I want to try that out and see how that plays.
Yeah,
But
I do
I
too.
really enjoy that. I don't know if that's going to upset my players a lot because,
I always remind my players when they talk about that. I said, just remember, I do it for them. It means it's going to be there for you too.
right.
Exactly. It's like I said, that's where I'm kind of like, that's a great idea. However, I have very many scenarios in my head where I'm killing a player that round, like guaranteed, because it's going to be the fighter who runs straight at the group of goblins. And if he dies in the three goblins that are at it, the next two are going to put arrows in him as well. And that sadly is going. So that was where you kind of go back. Do you remove the death penalty then at that point? Because if you don't, those next two arrows immediately kill him, no matter if he tried or not.
Yeah, I think I
Because
absolutely think that if
death
you're going to.
saves are going to be popped off, broken immediately at that point because you've now got two
So,
fails immediately.
the way I would do that is everything's going to happen this round, right?
Right.
Doesn't matter, everything's going to happen. I don't use negatives. Like if you're at 0 or
Yeah.
you're unconscious, right? So I actually would just say during this round
Is when you fell.
is when you fell
That'd
and
be
you
a good way.
start death saves the next round.
Okay,
Yeah.
So
that
it doesn't
makes
matter
more.
how many
That
people
would
hit
be
you
a
this
little
round.
safer, because that would also allow then to the only other way you would die then is if you legitimately went negative your health, which is
Yeah.
very rare.
Right.
I've only done it
I
once with a player, and that was due to a very nasty red.
I'd never thought about that before because I'm one of the GMs that I fudge a lot of rolls, and I always roll secretively because I want to create a great story versus just having the dice accidentally kill somebody.
Yeah.
So I always I fudge a lot of rolls, and as far as killing someone off, I try to never do that unless it's going to make a great story example.
Right,
So
and I think a lot of times that's the case. And you can really, even if you don't fudge, like I don't fudge rolls because most of my tabletops are virtual, and I don't just share to myself. I share to the entire party so they see what's going on.
yeah,
But I will say though, there's ways to definitely enhance that, or you know, make sure you have those points ready just in case. Maybe you need the NPC that's been hiding in the bushes watching you guys, and now not only that, but you have a new adventure hook at that point. Keep those types of characters in your in the back pocket just in case you run into that issue. Although I do tell people after level 3 the training wheels are off and all potential death
yeah.
is there. So that's kind of my own theory on that kind of thing, because first 3 levels, you're gonna start learning your class, you're going to start learning your character. Once you start getting your subclass and you're starting to get some decent amount of hit points, sometimes the dice just do the dice do, and I think that's where the chaos
And running away
comes
is an
from
option.
D&D.
That's the other part.
So yeah. But,
So we're at our 8 o'clock. Let's see if there's any last questions from stream.
yeah.
I
Does
did
have any
send
do
other
our
a
last
questions?
I did send a couple links to you guys.
Oh, let me. I shared this SoundCloud. Let me.
The other one is in the channel Discord.
Okay.
It's the one episode that I did and then never continued doing. It was the first time that I did that first combat that we did.
Oh,
So if
nice.
they wanted to see more of what a full combat would look like, the first 10 minutes of that is combat.
Okay.
Awesome. Hey guys, yeah, Asherbo, thanks for coming. We're gonna sign off here in just a minute. If you guys like this stuff and you want a PDF version of it, we are planning on opening our Patreon here in the next at the beginning of the year. What the Patreon's gonna do is it's gonna allow you guys to get these PDFs from us once a week as we produce them through the Tavern Talks, as well as hopefully in the near future, it's going to allow us to have a immersive role playing going on in our Discord. If you haven't joined our Discord, come hang out with us. There's all a bunch of people talking and asking about D&D stuff. You can find a group. You can come hang out, talk with us. We can help you with your own adventures, and hopefully soon we'll have our own role playing going on inside the channel, in the world of Zyothe, of course. I think, and just once again, thank you all for coming. We love having this little talk. This is where we just kind of vent about D&D, come up with new ideas, but we want to make sure it's a way that we can share it with everybody as well. And the Discord, the Patreon is just going to be so we can, continue to produce these things and pay for the people to come hang out with us and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think we're
Yeah, I think we're it. Thanks, Michael, for
it.
joining us.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for the great ideas.
Yeah, these are awesome
Um,
ideas. I hope I've gotten some ideas of how I want to play around with these, and hope maybe we've all gained something out of this. But yeah, make sure let us know if you want to come back again. We want to talk about another topic, and
Sure.
we'll get you in. If you are a creator on the stream right now and you want to join us, make sure that you when we sign out that you scan that little QR code, and that'll help you guys to fill out the little questionnaire. And we're going to continue to do these because they're fun. But we're going to get back to as I was talking with Corey earlier today, we're going to get back to the initial idea of this channel, this specific show, which is to help people improve their D&D games. So we're going to bring a bunch of guests on. We're going to talk about what they're working on and what they're doing. But as soon as we're done talking about that, we're going to jump into a topic that is interesting to you guys and is helpful for the community. So make sure you're letting us know what you guys are wanting more help on. So until then, raise your glass. It's it's last call. And if you guys
Cheers.
have any questions, make sure you pop those in. You've got about a minute. And until then, we will see you guys all next week. Don't know who our person is because I don't have my calendar up. But keep an eye out on the social medias, and we'll let you know what our topic is for next week. And make sure if you guys have comments or questions that you get those to us so that we can answer those on these streams. And then you can always catch this VOD on our YouTube after it pops off of Twitch. Until then, thank you for coming to the tavern, and we'll see y'all next week.
Good night.